Greetings, fellow seekers of truth and unravelers of ancient enigmas. Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where history's most profound secrets await your keen discovery. Not every discovery made by historians and archaeologists is a welcome one. Sometimes they come across artifacts or other pieces of evidence that challenge our entire understanding of history, and not always in a good way. For better or worse, these new facts force us to accept them, even if they completely change the way we look at our own past. In this video, we're going to take a look at the most controversial discoveries. But first, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. Giant skeletons. Some of the strongest evidence for the existence of giants comes from reports of giant skeletons discovered in England. Off the coast of England lies a small tidal island known as Street Michael's Mount, home to a castle and a handful of dwellings. According to legend, in the 6th century before the castle was built, the island was inhabited by a giant named Cormoran, who was said to be 18 foot tall and terrorized the local villagers until he was slain by a farmer's son named Jack. This tale would later give rise to the classic fairy tale Jack and the Giants. While discoveries in the caves beneath the castle have never proven the existence of an 18-foot man, monks did agree that in 1725 they found the skeleton of a man measuring 7 feet 8 inches in behind a sealed door. Another giant skeleton discovery was recorded in 1890, when George Lou found 3 bone fragments in France. He estimated that the individual to whom they belonged must have stood around 11 feet tall with bones twice as massive as those of a typical human, earning the nickname the Giant of Castelnau. These fragments were found at a Bronze Age burial site, and remain the only bones of such size ever uncovered. The bones were reportedly sent to the French Academy of Sciences for study, where they mysteriously disappeared. While most concrete evidence of giant skeletons has been lost over time, archaeologists continue to unearth extraordinarily large bones that at the very least would have been considered gigantic for their era. A more recent discovery came near Rome in 1991, when the ancient skeleton of an individual was unearthed. Archaeologists noted that the tomb was unusually long, and after analysis found that the individual's bones were exceptionally large. Medical investigation revealed that the person had suffered from gigantism and died young, likely between the ages of 16 and 20. The unique weapon of the Aztec and Maya, the macahuitl, the macuahudel, is regarded as one of the most unique and fearsome weapons of the ancient world. Although it appeared at first glance to be a simple wooden club, its truly terrifying power lay in the razor-sharp obsidian blades embedded along the head of the weapon. These blades, when finally honed, could achieve a sharpness surpassing even the best stainless steel razors. Historical records have documented numerous discoveries of the macuahudel over the centuries. However, the last known authentic specimen was destroyed in a fire at the end of the 19th century. Today, all that remains are the vivid and detailed eyewitness accounts, painting a picture of a weapon that first appeared as early as 900 BC, and continued in use until as late as 1570 AD. The macahuitl served as the principal close combat weapon among the peoples of Central America, especially the Aztec and Maya. Its wooden handle and shaft typically measured about 1 meter in length and weighed around 2 kilograms. The prismatic blades, crafted from volcanic obsidian, were capable of inflicting deep cuts and severe facial wounds. These blades were set into grooves running along both sides of the shaft, and held in place with a natural adhesive. This ingenious construction gave the macuahud the appearance of a primitive chainsaw. There were also many variations. Some versions featured longer blades. Others were studded with sharp spikes or small circular scales, creating a deadly serrated edge. Historians often describe this weapon as a cross between a sword and a handsaw. A masterfully crafted macua could even decapitate a man in a single blow. One account from a conquistador recounted the horrific scene of native warriors using their machuahid to behead the horse of one of his fellow soldiers. There were also two-handed versions, longer and heavier, designed to deliver even more lethal force in battle. The Aztecs developed a unique technique for using these weapons. By equipping them with shorter blades, They could capture enemies alive for ritual sacrifice, ensuring the wounds were not too deep so that their victims would survive longer. Today, although there are numerous replicas and reconstructions, the last authentic maquijole, once preserved in the Royal Armoury in Madrid, was lost in the Great Fire of 1884 along with the tapestille, a variant of the Aztec spear. Present, scholars believe that no original Mquitl specimens have survived. Even so, its legacy endures, for this weapon once played a pivotal role in enabling the peoples of Central America to resist the Spanish conquistadors. The Cape Girardeau UFO. In the small town of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, a long-held secret has recently come to light, shedding new perspective on an alleged extraterrestrial encounter that took place one fateful night in the spring of 1941. This incident occurred a full 6 years before the infamous Roswell crash, and has since captivated researchers and UFO enthusiasts alike. The story began to attract attention when Michael Huntington, a travel writer and UFO investigator, happened upon Charlotte Mann, the granddaughter of Reverend William Huffman. Mann recounted the extraordinary tale her grandfather had shared with her before he passed away, revealing a series of events that unfolded in a remote field on the outskirts of Cape Girardeau. According to Mann, late one night, Reverend Huffman was awakened by an urgent call from the local sheriff requesting his presence at the scene to deliver last rites to the victims of a horrific accident. Upon arrival, Huffman was confronted with a scene beyond explanation. A seamless disc-shaped craft torn open by a gaping hole and engulfed in flames. Police officers and firefighters had already pulled 3 bodies from the wreckage. But what left Huffman in shock was that the victims were not human. The entities were described as small with large protruding eyes, matching the now iconic image of extraterrestrial beings. 2 of the creatures had already perished while the third clung to life. In a moment of compassion, Huffman offered a blessing to the dying entity before it took its final breath. Some sources claim that the military swiftly cordoned off the area, confiscated all debris, and imposed strict silence on witnesses. Others argue that no such event ever took place, pointing out the complete absence of newspaper reports or official records, something highly unusual for a town like Cape Girardeau in the 1940s. The story continues to circulate about a photograph taken at the crash site depicting a group of men, including Huffman, standing solemnly around the alien bodies. Yet, this photo has long since vanished. Or perhaps it never existed at all. Aurora, Texas. In the historic cemetery of Aurora, Texas, there once stood a peculiar gravestone beneath a tree. Etched into its surface was the image of a spacecraft, a marker placed by UFO enthusiasts expressing their belief in an extraordinary theory that beneath this very tree lay the resting place of an extraterrestrial pilot. Today, the headstone has vanished, but the question lingers. Could an alien astronaut truly be buried beneath the soil of Aurora? According to the 17th of April, 1897 edition of the Dallas Morning News, the details of the incident are as simple as they are fantastic, almost like something out of a fairy tale. Around 6 a.m., the residents of Aurora were jolted awake by the sight of an airship, a concept that at the close of the 19th century was little more than science fiction crashing into the windmill on Judge Proctor's property. The craft was destroyed in the resulting explosion, which leveled the judge's flower garden and claimed the life of the pilot in the tragic blast. The newspaper reported that an Army Signal Service officer named Williams examined the pilot's remains and determined that the pilot was not of this world. The body, badly mangled and unrecognizable, was clearly not human. In addition, strange documents inscribed with indecipherable symbols were reportedly found with the pilot. Various accounts state that the townspeople buried this otherworldly visitor in the Aurora Cemetery, marking the grave with a stone carved with the figure of a spacecraft. The story goes further. Tons of aluminum and silver debris from the ruined ship were said to have been dumped into a nearby well, which was later sealed up. Over the decades, the mystery of Aurora only deepened with reports of odd discoveries near the site, including pieces of unknown metal, and unusually high rates of illness believed to be caused by contaminated well water. Yet, skepticism has shrouded the tale of the Aurora spaceship from the very beginning. Researchers and historians have pointed out numerous inconsistencies and suggested possible motives for a hoax. In the 1890s, Aurora was a struggling town beset by a string of misfortunes: a devastating cotton boll weevil infestation, a fierce fire, and an outbreak of spotted fever. Some believe the UFO story was a last-ditch effort by the townspeople to attract visitors and revive their economy. This interpretation resurfaced in a 1980 interview with Time magazine when 86-year-old Ida Peggs recalled her childhood memories of Aurora. While the legend of Aurora's alien visitor continues to live on, nourished by historical anecdotes and modern UFO culture, the truth behind the story remains cloaked in mystery: the secrets of the Sphinx. Let's start with a theory that many people have proposed, but no one has ever been able to prove: that beneath the Sphinx, there exists a secret door or tunnel leading to underground chambers. This is the personal theory of historian Matt Simpson, who believes that there are tunnels beneath the Sphinx's paws connecting it to the pyramids of Giza. Simpson insists that during a French archaeological excavation in 1837, a secret doorway was discovered, a discovery that was even witnessed by Colonel Howard Weiss. However, both the excavation team and Weiss were somehow compelled to keep this discovery a secret. Simpson's theory was once dismissed as far-fetched until secret tunnels beneath the Giza Plateau were actually discovered in 2019. If there really are tunnels down there, then they must lead somewhere. A connection between the pyramids and the Sphinx would make a lot more sense if we assume that the internal cavities inside the Sphinx once had some kind of purpose. The question of why the French archaeologists and Colonel Weiss would have been ordered to keep such a discovery secret remains unanswered to this day. If it truly was a find of enormous historical significance, then why the silence? Here's a less controversial fact about the Sphinx. It was carved from a single piece of stone. The sheer size of the monument makes this hard to believe, but it's true. This massive structure was carved from a single block of limestone, gradually chipped away by hundreds of craftsmen until the 240-foot-long, 66 ft tall figure we see today took shape. Actually, that isn't the whole story either, because the Sphinx as it exists now has been repaired and partially restored with additional limestone blocks. So, its original shape may have been a bit different. Still, even with modern technology, a construction or art project on this scale would be a huge challenge. The fact that the ancient Egyptians achieved this with nothing more than primitive hand tools is honestly almost impossible to believe. We don't even know the name of the person who designed or oversaw the construction of the Sphinx. Because unlike so many other monuments and major works in Egypt, the Sphinx bears no inscription whatsoever to identify its creator. It's no wonder some people have claimed that it was built by aliens. And once again, we find ourselves venturing into controversial territory with the next theory: the idea that the Sphinx may actually have been created to represent Anubis, the dog-headed god. The traditional view among archaeologists and historians is that the original face of the Sphinx was modeled after the pharaoh Khafre. But plenty of people disagree with that assessment. Some have suggested that the Sphinx once took the form of a lion to represent the constellation Leo. But lions never held any special place in ancient Egyptian culture. Dogs, on the other hand, were significant because of Anubis. If you look again at the Sphinx's shape with its flat back and the position of its legs, does it perhaps remind you more of a dog? There's another important detail. Anubis was believed to be the guardian of the necropolis. As some believe, the Giza Plateau was once a vast cemetery. Then erecting a giant statue of Anubis to watch over the site would make perfect sense. Could the face of the Sphinx have been dramatically altered from its original appearance? Certainly possible. As mentioned before, the Sphinx bears no inscription recording its construction, making the question of who created it even more mysterious. If we set aside the Anubis theory and accept that the Sphinx represents King Khafre, then it would have to have been built sometime between 2558 and 2532 B.C. But there's no solid evidence to back up that theory. And to this day, there is no consensus about who built it, why it was built, or what its original purpose was. That's a troubling gap in our knowledge about one of the largest sculptures on Earth. We don't even know its original name because, strangely enough, it does not appear in any of the surviving texts from the Old Kingdom of Egypt. The Sphinx was first called Hormkat during the New Kingdom, but many believe that wasn't even its original name. The word Sphinx itself only appeared about 2,000 years ago. The absence of any record about the construction of the Sphinx, as well as its original name from any civilization in history, is puzzling. And it makes us wonder whether such documents might have once existed and were later destroyed. If that's the case, then for what reason? There's also a question hiding in plain sight that few people ever notice. What happened to the nose of the Sphinx? The most popular theory is that the nose was broken off by the army of the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte during a battle near Giza, when France invaded Egypt in 1798. That version even appears in some history books. The problem is there's no direct evidence for it, no eyewitness accounts, and almost no chance that it actually happened the way those books describe. In fact, all the evidence points in another direction. According to the Arab historian al-Maki, the nose of the Sphinx has been missing since at least the 15th century and perhaps even earlier. El-Makrizi claimed that a Fatimid sheikh named Muhammad Sahim Aldar was responsible for destroying the nose. But there's no definitive proof for that claim either. The most controversial theory suggests that the nose was deliberately destroyed by Europeans when they arrived in Egypt in order to conceal the fact that the original nose had distinctly African features. Something that, if acknowledged, would prove that the ancient Egyptians were black. Another theory holds that the nose of the Sphinx was washed away by water erosion. But that raises another issue. The evidence of water erosion on the Sphinx's surface has become increasingly clear. And analyzing these marks could actually prove that the Sphinx is far older than we currently believe. According to geologist Robert Schull, the erosion marks on the body of the Sphinx could only have formed over thousands of years and would have required frequent rainfall. This region of Egypt hasn't seen regular sustained rain for more than 7,000 years. And based on Schull's estimates, the Sphinx could be as much as 1,200 years old. If that were ever proven, it would completely upend everything we thought we knew about Egyptian history. It should be noted, however, that many of Schull's peers strongly disagree with him and regard him as a fringe scholar. Still, the undeniable presence of water erosion on the monument continues to raise difficult questions, ones that mainstream theories have yet to answer. There's another strange detail. In the 18th century, the Sphinx was completely invisible to the naked eye. This fact alone makes the theory that Napoleon's troops broke the Sphinx's nose impossible, since he wouldn't even have been able to see it. Up until 1798, the Sphinx was buried entirely beneath the sands of Egypt. It was only when the top of its head started to emerge after shifts in the sand that people became aware of its existence. And it wasn't until the 1920s that French engineer Émile Barré began the excavation project. The work took him a full 10 years. And it wasn't until 1936 that the modern world was able to lay eyes on the Sphinx in its entirety for the first time. In the 150 years prior, several notable figures like the Italian explorer Giovanni Cavaglia and the French archaeologist Auguste Marat had attempted to excavate the monument. But both had to abandon their efforts, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the task. There's simply no way the Sphinx could have become so deeply buried by accident. Believing that would be like imagining the sand might someday rise up and swallow the pyramids themselves. Clearly, the Sphinx was deliberately concealed. We don't know who did it or why. Earlier, we mentioned the possibility that the Sphinx once had a beard. In reality, that's not just a possibility. It's a confirmed fact. We know this because part of the Sphinx's beard is currently held in the collection of the British Museum. It's just one of many Egyptian artifacts housed at the British Museum artifacts that, to be fair, probably shouldn't be there in the first place. According to the official account, The broken beard was discovered in several pieces between the Sphinx's front paws in the 19th century. But that can't be right, as we've already pointed out that the front paws of the Sphinx were still buried in sand until the 1930s. Although, there are suggestions that Caviglia might have dug as far as the paws before abandoning his excavation. It's both surprising and frustrating that the modern history of the Sphinx is as full of gaps as its ancient past. Nevertheless, the beard is real, and there's currently a campaign in Egypt to restore and reattach the beard to the monument's chin. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is that we have no real way of knowing exactly how old the Sphinx is, aside from a general sense that it's definitely older than the pyramids it watches over, and may in fact predate them by thousands of years. It's possible the Sphinx was built for Khafre around 2600 BC, or it might already have been ancient by the time Khafre was born. The suspicious erosion on the limestone certainly raises questions. But if we start talking about an age greater than 9,000 years, we'd have to rule out the idea that it was built by the ancient Egyptians. Or at least not by the ancient Egyptians as we currently understand them. It could be the work of an advanced civilization that existed long before the Egyptians, and laid the foundations for their culture. That's not to say aliens were involved, something that fringe theorists love to suggest about Egypt. But it does make us wonder who might have lived on this land before them. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is what the Sphinx was carved for, and what its true purpose really was. Who among us hasn't seen photos of this famous monument? But how many have ever stopped to wonder why it exists at all? A creation of this scale would surely have set a precedent. So why didn't any of Khafre's successors build a Sphinx of their own? And if the statue was originally conceived as a colossal representation of Anubis, then why was it ever changed? Why is there no record of its construction? Did it once serve some higher purpose? Or was it simply a massive monument to the power and influence of a particular pharaoh at a specific moment in time? These are all questions that remain unanswered. The 1933 Melanie UFO incident. Italy. Did a UFO really crash in Italy in 1933? And did the Vatican help cover it up? That is the sensational claim put forth by Italian UFO researcher Roberto Pinotti and former U.S. Air Force officer David Grush. Pinotti asserts that he has uncovered evidence of a UFO crash in Molini in 1933, with none other than Mussolini himself personally ordering the seizure and concealment of the wreckage for more than a decade. His evidence includes what are believed to be classified government documents originating from an anonymous source, among them 2 telegrams dated June 1933, allegedly approved by Mussolini, referencing the landing of an unknown flying object on national territory. While these documents appear convincing, no physical evidence of the crash has ever been found, and the ultimate fate of the UFO remains a mystery. Even so, some believe the craft ultimately ended up in American hands. David Grouch, a former intelligence officer, claims his high-level military contacts have informed him that the United States Office of Strategic Services confiscated the UFO remains when American forces entered Rome during World War II. Gush insists that the crashed object was a bell-shaped metallic craft, roughly 10 m in diameter, which was recovered in the town of Magenta near Milan. Mussolini's government reportedly held on to the object until 1944, with all related documentation locked away in the Vatican archives. Pinot's research also points to the existence of a secretive government agency called Gabinetto RS-33, said to have been established by Mussolini to oversee the retrieval and study of down saucers and other UFO events under the leadership of Nobel Prize-winning inventor Guglielmo Maroni. One document from 1936 was analyzed by a forensic expert who confirmed that both the paper and ink were consistent with that era. However, skeptics argue that vintage materials could have been used to forge the documents. Additionally, the papers lack official protocol numbers or authentication stamps, making their provenance difficult to verify. Despite the doubts, more intriguing details continue to emerge. Marco Negri, a resident of northern Italy, recently shared a story passed down from his great-grandfather, Pro Negri, who served as mayor of a town near the crash site from the 1920s through the 1950s. According to Pro, a strange wingless metallic aircraft crashed in Magenta during the 1930s, and the fascist secret police immediately covered up the event. The alleged involvement of the Vatican only adds to the mystery. If the Vatican truly possesses records of the 1933 UFO encounter, it would be a discovery of enormous historical significance. However, given the absence of concrete evidence and the Vatican's well-known secrecy, it seems unlikely that such records, if they exist, will be made public anytime soon. UFO in Florence. In October of 1954, the city of Florence, Italy, suddenly found itself at the center of one of the greatest historical mysteries of all time, when it may have been visited by beings from another world. The events of that day left both experts and locals utterly baffled, and to this day it remains a topic of endless controversy and debate. On the 27th of October 1954, thousands of football fans poured into the stadium with excitement buzzing through the air. Supporters were ready to cheer for their team in what promised to be a thrilling match. When the opening whistle sounded, everyone thought they were about to witness a memorable game. But in reality, they got far more than they bargained for. Throughout the first half, the stadium erupted in cheers as fans celebrated every goal scored by their team. During halftime, people hurried to grab refreshments before quickly making their way back to their seats for the second half. But just as the whistle blew to start the second half, the lively stadium suddenly fell silent. Not only did the fans stop, but even the players instinctively looked up at the sky where a strange object was floating overhead. One player later recalled, "I remember everything from beginning to end. It was something that looked like an egg moving very slowly. Everyone was looking up and there was this sparkling silver glitter falling from the sky. All eyes were fixed on the bizarre object. Whispers quickly spread through the crowd. Was this an alien spaceship?" Others that day reported seeing multiple unidentified objects in the sky, describing them as cigar-shaped and moving at incredible speed. Reports of UFOs poured in from all across Tuscany. Had the people of Tuscany really been visited by extraterrestrials that day? After the unidentified objects disappeared, a layer of white silky thread-like material was found draped over wooden surfaces on the outskirts of the city. Scientists were unable to determine the origin of this substance, which only fueled the growing belief that Florence truly had been visited by beings from another world on that autumn day. Every year, as the anniversary of the event approaches, those who witnessed it still remember and reflect on what they saw. Nearly 68 years have passed. Yet, scientists are still working tirelessly to find an explanation for this mysterious phenomenon. Do you think the people of Florence were ever visited by a UFO? Dian Rock. Titan Rock has been a source of controversy for centuries, despite hundreds of scientists and experts being called in to study it. We are still no closer to uncovering the truth. The first recorded mention of Dian Rock was in 1690 when John Danforth wrote about the mysterious stone he discovered in Dian, buried beneath the waters of the Teton River. This rock weighs a staggering 40 tons, stands about 1.5 m high, and stretches nearly 3.4 m long, making it almost impossible to overlook. But what truly captured people's attention wasn't its massive size, but rather the strange carvings and symbols etched across its surface. Danforth made a sketch of what he saw on the stone. However, he wasn't able to record the carvings on the lower half, as that part was submerged deep in the river. News of the discovery quickly spread, drawing crowds of curious onlookers. Each person came up with their own theories and ideas about where the rock had come from and how it ended up in the river. Some believed it was a recording stone used by Native Americans, while others claimed these mysterious carvings were evidence that extraterrestrials had once visited Earth and left behind indecipherable clues. Still, others speculated that the true authors of the stone might have been Portuguese, Chinese, or Japanese explorers. As the years went by, experts remained unable to reach a final answer, while scientists and historians continued to debate the origins of the carvings. Nature relentlessly wore away at the stone as it rested silently beneath the Taten River. Every year, people would flock to Dian Rock, hoping to catch a glimpse of the strange markings for themselves and perhaps even crack the code. By 1963, the stone was officially removed from the river during the construction of a dam. Scientists wanted to bring the rock into a museum for preservation, so that future generations could study it more closely. Today, Dian Rock is on display in a small museum at Dian Rock State Park in Berkeley, Massachusetts, and experts still haven't stopped searching for the origin of its carvings. Are these truly alien markings left behind by visitors from another world? Or are they simply the work of an ancient human civilization? The massacre in Denmark 2,000 years ago, 2 millennia ago in Denmark. A chilling massacre took place. Recent excavations have revealed the haunting remnants of this bloody conflict, leaving historians both astonished and deeply unsettled. Newly published reports have documented the process of archaeological excavation at a site known as the Meadows in Allen. The ominous title of these reports alludes to a martial event and the post-battle treatment of the dead believed to have occurred in the 1st century AD. This large-scale battle unfolded across a vast bog. It was this very landscape that preserved the remains of the fallen in remarkable condition, granting posterity a haunting glimpse into their final moments. Despite the harsh waterlogged conditions, archaeologists have unearthed over 200 skeletons. Each set of remains tells its own tragic story, and it is suspected that many more still lie buried beneath the ground. Careful analysis of these bones reveals that many of the combatants in this battle were inexperienced in warfare. This is reflected in the overwhelming number of injuries, as well as the shocking discovery that some of the fighters were mere teenagers, the youngest just 13 years old. Current theories suggest that the conflict was primarily waged between the region's Germanic tribes, with the invading Romans apparently not involved. However, what truly chills the investigators is the treatment of the bodies after the battle. Evidence on the bones indicates that the dead were left exposed to the elements for 6 months to a year. Their remains at the mercy of wild animals. They were stripped of their clothing, their limbs grotesquely rearranged, skulls smashed, and joints dislocated. All of it occurring after death. In some cases, bones were severed and erected like stakes. The absence of weapons and the altered positioning of the remains suggest that the bodies had been deliberately relocated. Scholars believe that this disturbing post-battle ritual may have been connected to the gathering of spoils of war, or perhaps a ceremonial cleansing of the battlefield. While excavations are still ongoing, it is estimated that up to 1,000 skeletons may still be resting beneath the mud of the meadows at Alsen. The mystery of the Viking helmets. The discovery of an ancient artifact can sometimes lead to astonishing revelations, offering historians new perspectives on the past. Yet, there are times when it is the very absence of discoveries that proves even more perplexing, such as the strange case of the missing Viking helmets, a mystery that has persisted for many years. It was not until 1943 that the famous German Boo helmet was accidentally uncovered in a field on a Norwegian farm, crafted more than a millennium ago. It is considered the first Viking helmet ever found in modern times. For a period, this artifact was carefully hidden to protect it from the prying eyes of the occupying German forces, safeguarding it from the notorious treasure hunters of the Reich. Later, this remarkable discovery led archaeologists to a burial mound located on the same land. Excavations there revealed more than 70 additional artifacts, including chainmail, swords, equestrian gear, and various weapons. Analysis indicated that this was likely the final resting place of a wealthy Viking warrior. And all the treasures unearthed were transferred to the Oslo Museum, where they are preserved to this day. The Germanbu helmet is one of only 2 Viking helmets ever discovered, and the sole specimen unearthed in Scandinavia. The other was found in Yorkshire, England during the 1950s by a group of workers laying down a sewage system. Considering the vast influence and aggressive expansion of the Vikings, The extremely limited number of helmets that have been found is truly surprising. One hypothesis suggests that helmets were not a common part of battle attire, but were reserved instead for ceremonial or symbolic occasions. If this were the case, only those of significant stature, chieftains or elite warriors, would have possessed them. Another theory attributes their rarity to the rising influence of Christianity, as the new faith discouraged the burial of the dead with their worldly possessions, resulting in a gradual decrease in grave goods such as armor and weapons over time. The mystery of the missing Viking helmets remains unsolved. However, there is still hope that future excavations, along with fortunate discoveries like the Germando helmet, will eventually shed light on the reasons behind their rare appearance in the historical record. The meteoric arrowhead of the Bronze Age. At the end of the 19th century, an arrowhead was discovered at a Bronze Age settlement in Mürgen, Switzerland. For many years, this 30,000-year-old artifact was displayed at the Bern Historical Museum, and it was long assumed to be just an ordinary ancient arrowhead. However, recent research has revealed that this is no ordinary relic. Advanced techniques such as X-ray tomography and gamma spectrometry have been used to analyze the artifact. The results show that it contains aluminum-26 isotopes, which do not naturally occur on Earth, along with traces of an iron-nickel alloy commonly found in meteorites. Further analysis determined that this arrowhead was crafted from a meteorite that struck Earth around 3,500 years ago. The extraordinary hardness of this material, ideal for inflicting damage, likely made it a prized resource. Fashioned into a weapon around 800 BC. The meteoritic iron arrowhead was also found with traces of plant resin, indicating it had once been affixed to an arrow shaft. Most remarkable of all is that its mineral composition does not match any of the local meteorites, such as those found at the Twanberg site, which lies only about 8 kilometers from the site of discovery. This suggests that the material for the arrowhead had traveled a very long distance after falling to Earth. Current theories propose that the meteorite may have first landed more than 200 kilometers away in Estonia before being transported or traded by humans, and eventually finding its way to Switzerland. The meteorite impact, which occurred around 1500 BC, was likely regarded by ancient people as a momentous event, and the material from the meteorite became a rare and valuable commodity. The journey of this unique meteoritic arrowhead, and the historical events it has witnessed, truly surpass our imagination. While it stands as an astonishing testament to human ingenuity, this artifact also reflects the age-old human tendency to transform every new discovery into a weapon. Mount Nokogiri. Mount Nokiri, located in Chiba Prefecture, Japan, is the site of a massive megalithic complex widely believed to be an ancient quarry. The Japanese have named this place Saw Mountain because of the cut marks that resemble those made by saw blades. And the area began to be used as a stone quarry during the Edo period, which spanned from 6003 to 1868. However, the true age of the Nojirayama quarry remains a mystery. Many features at the site hint at origins that are far more ancient, possibly even prehistoric. The theory that Mount Nokiri once served as a quarry in deep antiquity is bolstered by the presence of perfect cuts on the stone, executed with a level of precision that is nothing short of astonishing. These cuts are strikingly straight and unnaturally clean, suggesting they may have been made using tools or techniques far more advanced than what was available during the quarry's known period of operation. The paradox here is that during the Edo period in Japan, the technology and tools for quarrying stone were still extremely primitive, consisting mainly of chisels, hammers, and iron wedges. When you compare these traditional tools to the near machine-like cuts found on some of the ancient stone blocks at Nukuma, the gap in capability becomes glaringly obvious. Moreover, the stone walls at this site soar as high as 30 m, nearly 100 feet in some places. The idea of climbing up to such a height and then chiseling into solid rock with a hammer is almost unthinkable. The precision in these ancient cuts also suggests that there must have existed a technology capable of producing straight and perfectly aligned cuts at any height, something virtually impossible to achieve with the crude tools mentioned above. Curiously, the precise cuts at Noyama bear a remarkable resemblance to those found at ancient sites around the globe, where the same meticulous stoneworking techniques are also present. For example, Pumapunku in Bolivia is famous for its incredibly precise stonework. The cuts and drill holes in the stones there are so sharp and refined that many have hypothesized the existence of advanced stone cutting technology in prehistoric times. Technology that may have existed even before the Inca civilization. If Pumapunku was actually built by a highly developed civilization that predated the Inca, who later simply inherited the site. Could it be possible that the Nwari quarry was also originally developed by an even older civilization only to be taken over by the Japanese much later? The most mysterious feature of this area is the series of perfectly parallel vertical incisions. If you're familiar with prehistoric megalithic sites in China, these vertical grooves will undoubtedly look familiar. At places like the Yangshan quarry, where massive stone blocks were separated from the mountain itself, as well as the Liu caves, the Hashan grotto, and numerous other sites, you find the same kinds of marks. All these expansive sites served as hubs of enormous construction efforts and large-scale stone extraction with millions of tons of rock removed. For Bronze Age cultures equipped with only primitive tools, such feats are almost unimaginable. The vertical cuts discovered at all of these sites closely resemble those made by modern drilling machinery. If you compare the lines found at Mount Nwariama with those produced by today's advanced machines, the similarity is truly astonishing. Of course, this does not mean that the ancient Japanese were not skilled in traditional stonework. During the Edo period, the Japanese created truly impressive works of art, such as this colossal Buddha statue. This monumental sculpture, completed in 1783, was carved directly into the mountainside. The statue stands around 31 m tall, making it one of the largest Buddha statues in Japan. Alongside it, there are more than 500 smaller stone statues depicting the Buddha's disciples known as Rakan. These statues are scattered along the slopes of the mountain and are intricately carved, each one bearing its own unique expression and posture. They portray the Buddha's followers, each in a distinct state of meditation or contemplation. However, these artistic works were most likely added thousands of years later and have no connection to the site's original builders. Given all the analysis so far, it is truly worth questioning whether this place was ever actually intended to be used as a quarry. The primary goal of any traditional quarry is to extract the greatest amount of stone with the least amount of labor and time. Yet, what happened here seems to contradict that principle. If workers did not have modern machinery and had to create parallel incisions by hand, they would have extracted only a small amount of stone while expending a tremendous amount of effort. Furthermore, why would they create perfectly squared recesses with flawless 90 degrees angles and polished surfaces on the rock if their sole intention was merely to obtain building material? The meticulousness and craftsmanship evident in these techniques point to other motives or purposes behind such labor-intensive work. But the question remains, what was that purpose? Land of Giants. Thanks to a series of incredible archaeological discoveries about its ancient inhabitants, the Italian island of Sardinia has often been called the Land of Giants. In March 1974, a local farmer plowing his fields along the island's western coast accidentally unearthed a large statue fragment, an event that kicked off 8 years of archaeological excavations and investigations. Archaeologists eventually collected over 5,000 pieces of carved sandstone, and as they pieced them together, they realized they were reconstructing an army made of stone. These were statues depicting boxers, archers, and warriors. As many as 44 individual statues have been found. What's truly astonishing, however, is not just the number or the identity of their creators, but their sheer size. These stone giants stand as tall as 8 feet, with some weighing as much as 880 pounds when fully restored. Equally impressive is their anatomical precision. Even at over 8 foot tall, the details of the faces were carved with extraordinary care. The eyes, for instance, are perfect concentric circles, leading many to describe their appearance as almost alien. Experts have determined that these giant statues were carved from local sandstone and likely date back around 3,000 years. Many believe that the discovery of these statues, known as the Giants of Monte Piama, adds even more weight to theories about ancient astronauts or alien intervention. Originally, these statues were erected as guardians over the tombs of the Iron Age elite in Sardinia. But just a few centuries later, invading forces smashed them into the 5,000 fragments archaeologists have found today. Sardinia's reputation as an island of giants is further cemented by the presence of numerous massive tombs called Tombs of the Giants, with burial chambers stretching up to 100 feet long and standing over 8 feet high. While archaeologists claim these tombs were built so large to accommodate multiple bodies, local legends insist they were constructed for a race of giants that once lived on the island. Some even claim that enormous skeletons have been discovered inside, far larger than any ordinary human. A local painter and sculptor named Luigi Muscus was once interviewed about his memories of discovering some of these bones, including skeletons that supposedly measured up to 13 feet long. He recalled finding a giant skeleton in a cave as a child back in 1972. According to Muscus and several other locals, whenever these giant skeletons were discovered and reported to the authorities, they would almost always mysteriously vanish by the very next day. Tales of Melon. Ferdinand Melon was a Portuguese explorer who led the legendary 1519 expedition across the Pacific Ocean to the East Indies. The journey brought him glory, but ultimately cost him his life. According to Melon's own journals, when he and his crew were exploring the coast of South America, they witnessed giants dancing on the shore. The Patagonian giants were dubbed Patagon by the crew, a name inspired by a giant character from a popular 16th-century Spanish novel at the time. This encounter would go on to be confirmed by numerous others in the years that followed. According to these records, the Pentagon were otherwise proportioned like normal humans, but could reach heights of up to 13 to 15 feet. A later expedition led by Sir Francis Drake also described the people of Patagonia as unusually tall, noting that Melon was not altogether mistaken. Although Drake's crew estimated the locals' height at around 7.5 feet, modern science and archaeology have tried to rationalize the existence of these giants, as well as to understand why so many eyewitness accounts reported a race of gigantic people. A striking photograph from the late 19th century even shows an Ona man from Patagonia standing at about 7.5 foot tall. While some have dismissed these claims as hoaxes or exaggerations, the sheer consistency of the evidence makes it entirely plausible that a race of extraordinarily tall people once existed in Patagonia. The Dundee County UFO, Nebraska. In June of 1884, a strange event is said to have taken place on the vast grasslands of Dundee County, leaving behind a mystery that continues to fascinate researchers and UFO enthusiasts to this day. According to newspaper accounts from that era, on the 6th of June, a group of cowboys witnessed a massive fiery object hurtling straight down from the sky and crashing behind an earthen embankment near the small settlement of Max. Ranch owner John Ellis and his hands discovered the ground littered with fragments resembling pieces of machinery, including giant wheels. At a site where the heat radiating from the wreckage was so intense that one could suffer burns venturing too close. The following morning, local government inspector Rollins and his team returned to the site and discovered the remains of a cylindrical object approximately 50 to 60 feet long and 10 to 12 feet in diameter. Ellis was even planning to lay claim to the crash site. But only a few days later, the newspaper reported that the mysterious craft had completely vanished after a heavy rainstorm, leaving behind only small jelly-like pools and a lingering unpleasant odor in the air. Although editor James Calhoun later admitted to fabricating the story, some researchers maintain that there may be more to the Dundee County case than meets the eye. Calhoun was known for his humorous tall tales, but the level of detail in the initial reports has led many to speculate that he may have simply embellished a real event rather than inventing it out of whole cloth. For years afterward, Investigators attempted to find hard evidence to back up the tale from 1884. Some have pointed out that in 2013, near the location believed to be the crash site, strange green stones were discovered. These translucent rocks marbled with white were described as looking like lime jello with cottage cheese, a description that matches the mysterious jelly pools mentioned in reports from over a century earlier. Additionally, the Dundee County incident took place before the wave of mystery airship sightings that swept across America in the late 1892, fueling speculation that it could represent one of the earliest encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. Ultimately, the truth behind the Dundee County event remains elusive. Perhaps Calhoun simply spun a yarn too compelling to be forgotten. But the enduring interest in the case suggests that for many, the idea of a celestial visitor once landing on the Nebraska prairie still holds a strange and irresistible allure. The UFO crash at the Trinity Nuclear Test Site. 1945. In December 2022, President Joe Biden approved a significant addition to the U.S. military budget, a provision mandating a systematic investigation into UFO incidents recorded by the American Armed Forces. This new initiative requires a comprehensive review of past UFO encounters with one notable amendment, expanding the scope of inquiry not just to events after 1947, but all the way back to 1945. This adjustment was prompted by a largely forgotten incident that occurred near the Trinity site in New Mexico, the very place where the world's first atomic bomb was tested in July 1945. The crash site was first discovered on the 16th of August, 1945 by two young boys, 9-year-old Jose Padilla and 7-year-old Arbaca. At the time, the boys were riding their horses across the vast expanse of the Padilla Ranch near San Antonio, New Mexico, searching for a stray cow when the ground suddenly shook from a tremendous explosion. Rushing toward the source of the noise, the boys stumbled upon an extraordinary scene. A colossal metallic object lying at the end of a deep gouge torn into the earth. A large gash marred the side of the craft, and through it, the boys could see small figures darting rapidly inside. It wasn't until 2003, nearly 6 decades later, after both had gone on to successful careers, that Jose and Rem finally shared their remarkable story with Z Valley, a former federal UFO investigator. In their interview, they described the beings inside the craft as standing about 4 feet tall with thin limbs and heads resembling those of praying mantises. Seeing such creatures for the first time, the boys were understandably terrified. They rushed home to tell their father, who dismissed it as just another routine military test. The military soon arrived, quickly secured the site, and declared the object to be nothing more than a downed weather balloon. The craft was hauled away on a flatbed truck, but not before the boys managed to sneak back and retrieve a metal panel from the wreckage. In 2015, analysis of the panel revealed it to be composed only of common aluminum alloys used in contemporary aviation. While Jose and Rem's account remains the only direct testimony of living entities at the crash site, they weren't the only witnesses to the event. Researcher Jacavelle later interviewed relatives of Lieutenant Colonel William Brody, who revealed that Brody had been sent to investigate the incident while piloting a bomber to Alamogordo Air Base. At the time, Brody had been tasked with inspecting a communications tower that had suddenly gone offline, only to discover it had been struck by an egg-shaped metallic object. He also confirmed the presence of the two boys, Padilla and Baca, on horseback at the scene. To this day, the official position of the U.S. military remains unchanged. They insist the object was simply a weather balloon used for testing purposes. However, the inclusion of this incident in the recent military spending bill has reignited public interest and raised new questions about the true nature of what transpired on that fateful day in 1945. The Giants of Lovelock Cave. Lovelock Cave lies in a remote part of Nevada, thanks to the unique treasures preserved inside. It has drawn the attention of archaeologists ever since its discovery in 1911. That year, 2 miners were hired to extract bat guano from the cave. And after clearing out a layer that was nearly 3 to 6 feet thick, they began to uncover unusual artifacts. Although the initial excavation was unprofessional and resulted in damage to many items, it quickly became clear that Lovelock Cave held something truly special. The first finds included a variety of intricate objects, among them weapons, woven duck decoys, primitive articles of clothing, and even bones said to belong to giants. A local legend helps explain the cave's significance. According to the story, after years of war between the region's native tribes, they finally united to defend their land against a race of giants known as the Saitika. These red-haired giants were chased into a cave. When the giants refused to come out and fight face to face, the tribes used smoke to force them into the open, then killed them with arrows or burned them alive right where they stood. Many reports state that excavators once found the remains of 2 giants, including a male who stood over 8 foot tall. But as with so many other mysteries, this evidence later vanished under mysterious circumstances. The Oya Stone Quarry in Utsunomiya. As we leave the rugged slopes of Nwari behind and journey to another major site, the Oya Stone Quarry in Utsunomiya, we encounter yet another quarry that shares similar characteristics. Here, once again, we can observe razor-straight cuts and parallel grooves as if they were made by modern machinery. Are these traces truly the result of some kind of advanced ancient machine technology? This hypothesis is further reinforced by the precision and consistency of the cuts, something that would have been almost impossible to achieve with the traditional tools from the periods that are thought to have produced these monuments. What sets the Oya Quarry apart from Nwari is its depth. The area reaches down to around 60 m or approximately 200 feet. This is a monumental undertaking by any standard, especially without the support of modern equipment. The interior of this man-made cavern is genuinely impressive, featuring a floor that is perfectly flat, numerous spots with precise 90 degrees angled cuts, and once again, rows of perfectly even parallel grooves. The entire scene here is strikingly reminiscent of the Liu Caves and the Hashan Grotto in China. But how is such a stunning similarity possible when the distance between the Oya Stone Quarry in Japan and the ancient sites in central China stretches over 1,800 kilometers or about 118 miles? And this number doesn't even account for the additional travel by land or sea that would be required to actually move between these two places. Could it be that all of these sites were constructed by the same global civilization? We often refer to this as a civilization possessing advanced technology and extraordinary knowledge, enabling them to create these gigantic megalithic structures. No one knows for certain what led to the disappearance of such a civilization, but it is highly likely that it was the result of a cataclysmic event. The floating stone. But the mysteries do not stop there. If you visit the town of Takasago in Hyogo Prefecture, you will encounter another equally impressive megalithic wonder, Ishino Hoden, also known as the floating stone. This strange and enigmatic creation was carved from a single block of tuff, a type of rock formed from volcanic ash during violent eruptions. This colossal stone weighs about 500 tons and stands roughly 5 m tall and 5 m deep. This makes the stone even larger than any of the blocks used in the construction of Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza, with the largest known block there weighing just 80 tons. To this day, the origins and purpose of this ancient relic remain an absolute mystery, as there are no inscriptions or markings of any kind carved onto its surface. According to estimates, this monument was created during the prehistoric period, which dates from around 14,000 to 300 B.C. Later, the Japanese built a Shinto shrine around the stone, and it came to be called the floating stone because of its extraordinarily unique placement. Its shape is also highly unusual, resembling a component from some vast machine with the appearance of a cubic block that tapers to a point on one end. The stone is cut with incredible precision. Its corners are sharp and the surfaces are polished, smooth, all of which reflect the advanced stonework skills of its creators. The shape of the stone consists of two vertically oriented rectangular parallel pipe heads with one end jutting upward like the peak of a pyramid. But how could a prehistoric hunter-gatherer society possibly transport and shape a stone block weighing as much as 500 tons? Where did the knowledge and techniques required to create such a magnificent work of stone art originate? The strange connection between this megalithic wonder and the groundwater beneath it has led some to theorize that the site may actually be a kind of energy-generating device interacting with the water below. Locals also believe that the stone possesses healing properties. In many cultures, water is regarded as a symbol of purification closely linked to spiritual rebirth. The steady flow of water beneath the Shinohoden may be the very factor that enhances its sanctity and the reverence people hold for this stone. It is entirely possible that the original builders of the stone specifically chose this location for its natural spring. However, there is also the possibility that the continuous stream of water emerging from the ground is not a natural phenomenon, but the result of some kind of advanced hydrological system. Locals even claim that the water beneath Ishinoden has never run dry, not even during the harshest droughts. This only adds to the mystery surrounding this megalith. It is well known that most ancient megalithic sites are aligned with star constellations and astronomical events. Curiously, on the winter solstice in 600 B.C., the sun rises precisely in line with the pyramid-like tip of the stone. This mysterious megalith, which creates the illusion of floating above the water, continues to fascinate people thousands of years after its creation. The gigantic granite coffins within the Eliyama Kofund burial mound. Also in the Oscar region, researchers have discovered gigantic granite coffins within the Wayama Kofun burial mound. The design of these coffins bears a striking resemblance to the Ishino-Hoden monolith, especially the peculiar stone knobs found on both the granite boxes and the massive stone at Ishino-Hoden. These stone knobs are similar to those found on many megalithic structures around the world. We previously mentioned the massive block at the Yangshan quarry, which also features similarly gigantic knobs. These knobs can also be seen on megalithic stone walls in Peru, Egypt, and many other locations globally. Beyond the stone walls, the two parallel granite chambers here are almost identical to the granite boxes discovered in Egypt. Likewise, the stone boxes in Japan exhibit perfect 90 degrees angles and an astonishing level of precision in their construction. Just like the granite boxes in Egypt, how could ancient people, equipped only with primitive tools, possibly shape pink granite, one of the hardest materials on Earth, into such precise and smooth forms? There are even massive granite slabs with intricate grooves and carvings that are so meticulously crafted and smooth that it's hard to imagine they were created with primitive tools. The purpose of these structures remains a complete mystery. Sakapuni Isi Japan is home to many more mysterious stone structures, the origins of which remain largely unknown. For example, there is Sakafuneshi, a mysterious artifact also located in Asuka. This enormous stone structure was carved from a single block of granite measuring about 3 m in length and is shaped somewhat like a boat or a trough. The stone is hollowed out, forming a basin with a flat base. Granite is an extremely difficult stone to work with, making the perfectly smooth oval curves and water channels on its surface all the more astonishing. There are no clues indicating the true purpose of this stone, but historians speculate that it might have been used in religious rituals or for the production of traditional sake, a crucial element in Shinto ceremonies and festivals in Japan. However, this massive granite piece weighing as much as 10 tons sits in an area rich with other ancient ruins, suggesting it may have once been part of a larger complex. A Japanese researcher named Hiroshi Hayashi made an intriguing discovery while studying the lines carved on the stone. He believes that Sakapun is actually an ancient map centered on the North Pole. He precisely measured the angles and inclinations of these lines and found that they matched perfectly with the longitudes of other famous megalithic sites like Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, and more. The center of the stone, in fact, represents the center of the earth, an astonishing realization. especially considering that the system of geographic latitudes was only formally established in England in 1884. And the oldest such systems date to just 1494. The site's proximity to numerous other important archaeological discoveries further supports the idea that this area was once the center of a vast architectural complex. And what remains today is only a fraction of what once existed thousands of years ago. Turtle Stone. If you walk just a few minutes from Sakafunishi, you will encounter another enigmatic stone called Kamehi or Turtle Stone. This massive stone earned its name because it closely resembles a turtle. The true purpose and meaning behind its creation are still the subject of much debate. Some researchers believe it had astronomical significance and was used to mark celestial events. Others suggest it might have served as a marker for a burial ground or a significant location in the Oscar region. According to legend, the turtle stone in Oscar possesses mysterious and even somewhat ominous powers. It is said that when the stone turns to face west, a great flood will strike this land. If it ever turns fully to the west, Japan will sink into the ocean and disappear forever. Present. The turtle stone is oriented toward the southwest, which sparks both curiosity and concern among those who know the legend. This mysterious behavior has led to a variety of theories regarding its nature and origin. One intriguing hypothesis is that the stone might actually be magnetic and capable of interacting with the Earth's magnetic field. Such an interaction could allow the stone to detect or measure magnetic anomalies, which are sometimes linked to catastrophic geological events such as earthquakes or floods. If this is true, then the turtle stone is not just a cultural and historical artifact, but could also be a natural geophysical marker, or even a primitive early warning system. The hypothesis that the movement of the turtle stone might reflect shifts in the Earth's poles, a phenomenon that could explain global cataclysms, could also account for the strange legends associated with the stone. If the turtle stone is truly magnetic, it could be influenced by shifts or instabilities in the Earth's magnetic field, which originate from the movement of the planet's core or tectonic plates. These changes could correspond with the legends suggesting the stone would turn before major environmental upheavals. The Demon's Washing Stone. In this same region, many other colossal stone structures have been discovered, such as Onanokin, which means the Demon's Washing Stone or the Ogre's Face Washing Stone. This boulder sits near the Oscar River and is famous for its strange shape and the legends that surround it. According to local folklore, a giant demon used this rock to wash its face every morning. The stone is quite flat and large, making it perfectly suited for the mythical purpose assigned to it by the ancients. Moreover, it is believed that the stone may once have played a role in ancient rituals given its prominent location and distinctive form. Some theories suggest that it might have served as a kind of altar or ceremonial platform, especially as it lies right by the river, hinting at possible water-related rites. The physical features of the stone, including worn grooves that could be remnants of repeated use, only add to the aura of mystery and legend that surrounds it. We also encounter another stone here known as the Demon's Toilet. It's hard to step back far enough to take in its full appearance. On the surface of this stone, there are geometric cut marks truly unique and rarely seen elsewhere. Right beside it is Oni Namina, which translates to the demon's cutting board. According to legend, this stone was used by a giant demon to chop up human victims or prepare food. These gruesome images add to the stone's strange allure, transforming it into an important location tied to supernatural legends. Physically, Oni Nameda is remarkable for its gigantic size and extremely flat surface. Ishibutai Kofun. Also in Asuka, there is a renowned site called Ishibutai Kofun, one of the most impressive stone tombs in all of Japan, both in terms of scale and historical value. Ishibutai Kofun stands out not only for its historical significance, but also for the incredible technical achievement of its construction. The entire burial site is assembled from enormous stone blocks, with the largest slabs forming the now exposed burial chamber after centuries of erosion wore away the earthen mound that once covered it. The largest stone, which forms the ceiling of the chamber, weighs around 140 tons. Other upright stones weigh about 60 tons each. To this day, it remains a mystery how an ancient civilization could have moved and stacked such colossal stones. What is even more remarkable is that across Japan, there are thousands of ancient coffin burial mounds, which mainstream historians generally date to around 250 AD. However, outside the mainstream, there is a group of researchers and historians who believe that many of these coffin are actually much older and may date back long before the widely recognized era in Japanese history. These opinions are often based on the advanced construction techniques that would have been required to transport and assemble such gigantic stone blocks, the precision in the stonework, the engineering needed to move and lift stones of such massive weight, and the meticulous arrangement of these blocks into special geometric configurations, all point to a level of technological sophistication that far surpasses what was previously believed possible for ancient Japan. Without advanced knowledge or equipment, it would have been nearly impossible to accomplish such feats. These theories are frequently compared to other ancient stone sites around the world, where there is similar debate about the possibility of long-lost advanced technologies. The precision of the stone joints, so reminiscent of the architecture of other ancient civilizations, raises many questions about our conventional understanding of the technological abilities of the time. Many researchers suggest these structures could be the remnants of a phase of civilization we do not yet fully understand, or even that they may be linked to other ancient cultures through lost technological knowledge, or as yet unidentified shared heritage. Bizarre statues in Okinawa. If you dig deeper into the study of Japan, you will come across some bizarre statues in Okinawa that closely resemble those found in Mexico. There is even a giant human head statue that looks strikingly similar to the Memek heads, those iconic artifacts of Mexico. Unfortunately, upon further investigation, it was discovered that these statues are not ancient at all, but are actually remnants of an abandoned amusement park from the 992nd. However, that does not mean there is no possible connection between these ancient civilizations. In the Kai region, near the center of Japan, you will find Osaka Castle, an iconic symbol of 16th century Japan. But what is truly extraordinary lies beneath the castle itself. Osaka Castle is built upon a prehistoric foundation of enormous polygonal stones tightly fitted together without any gaps. This gigantic foundation predates the castle and features a construction style almost identical to ancient stonework in Peru and Egypt. Such architectural similarities provide intriguing clues about a possible connection between pre-Diluvian Japan and the advanced ancient civilizations scattered across the globe. This polygonal and cyclopean style of megalithic construction is not only found in Japan but also in distant places like Easter Island. So what does the widespread distribution of this architectural style tell us? Could it be evidence of a once global advanced civilization? Most astonishingly, one of these stones weighs an estimated 800 tons. This colossal block is known as the octopus stone, also referred to as the drum stone. The true origin of this stone remains a mystery, and historians still cannot explain how an ancient civilization could have quarried and transported such enormous stones without modern technology. Its shape is also very similar to the gigantic stones found at Baalbek. It must be acknowledged that even with today's modern technology, we could not easily lift and move the so-called octopus stone. This raises a major question. What kind of technology did that lost prehistoric civilization possess to accomplish such a feat? Additionally, in other areas of the site, there are numerous stones weighing more than 100 tons, all stacked with astonishing precision, almost without any gaps at all. If you look closely at the stone walls, you can see signs of significant weathering on the surfaces, suggesting that the foundation could be extremely old. This is particularly compelling when considering the effectiveness of the polygonal stonework in a region frequently struck by earthquakes. This construction technique offers exceptional stability during seismic events, which are a constant threat in this area. This resilience suggests that the foundation has endured for thousands of years, standing strong against the most violent earthquakes in Japanese history. Even though the castle itself has been destroyed and rebuilt many times, The ancient core structures, especially the megalithic stones, have remained almost entirely in place, proving the timeless durability of ancient construction techniques. Such enduring strength speaks volumes about the skill and foresight of the ancient architects. Furthermore, some of these stones show signs of vitrification, indicating that they were once exposed to extremely high temperatures, possibly as a result of some cataclysmic event. This detail has sparked further speculation about the ancient origins of these stones, whether they may have witnessed global catastrophes, such as those proposed by the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which theorizes that a comet impact wiped out the world's earliest advanced civilizations. So, these stones could have been set in place more than 1,200 years ago. This leads us to a profound question. Could the foundations of Osaka Castle be the surviving remnants of an advanced prehistoric civilization, far beyond what we currently understand about human history? The available evidence strongly suggests this is possible, and if confirmed, it would fundamentally alter our view of ancient human achievements. The mysteries of the past are still out there waiting to be uncovered and understood. If you found today's stories fascinating, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next journeys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next exploration.